Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Slcmof, and I'm back again with another video. And in this one, I'd like to talk about WB Games Montreal's Superman video game. And I made a video on this a few months ago. I'll link it in the description below, outlining all of the evidence that we have that a Superman game is in development at WB Games Montreal. Now, I was very hopeful that we were going to get an announcement or a trailer at E3 and also at San Diego Comic-Con, but they have chosen up the path to do so, and I've essentially abstained from mentioning the game at all. And I look at their Twitter, they pretty much haven't tweeted since they made the Batgirl DLC. And, WB Games Montreal is an interesting one because they've been around since 2010. They're going on 7 years old as a game studio. Yet, even with this, they have only developed one game in their entire life cycle, with the exception of the Batgirl DLC. They've only developed one video game, and the fact of it is that Batman Arkham Origins video game, the one that they developed, is basically largely a copy and paste of Batman Arkham City. I mean, Rocksteady even conceded that a lot of the code from Batman Arkham City was shared with WB Games Montreal, and that explains why a lot of the animations and the combat was the same in Batman Arkham Origins. So I'm not saying the game's bad. I have a lot of Batman Arkham Origins serious fans in my channel, so I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that a lot of the gameplay mechanics were replicated. So the game shouldn't have taken nearly as long as it did to develop, and that is roughly 3.5 years because the game was released in late 2013. So basically 4 full years to develop Batman Arkham Origins. And then I look at that, and I look at 4 years to develop Batman Arkham Origins, and then I look over at Rocksteady, who is a studio that is, by the way, 4 times smaller than WB Games Montreal, 4 or 5 times. So WB Games Montreal, roughly 450 employees, whereas Rocksteady is like 100 when they developed Batman Arkham City, which is, the greatest video game of all time. The superhero video game, that is. Okay. So they developed a video game that they had to build the code from the ground up, with the exception of having a little bit of Arkham Asylum, gameplay, basically mechanics in their code. But large in part, they had to build it all from the ground up. It took them twice less the amount of time. Okay, Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City were 2 years apart. It took them 2 years to make Batman Arkham City with 4 times fewer employees, whereas WB Games Montreal has 4 times the amount of employees, but it still took them twice as long to make a game as simple as Batman Arkham Origins, which again is basically using and copying the code from another game. So they didn't even have to build the code from the ground up. My point in saying this is they are now making a Superman game. They're making an open world Superman game. They don't have Rocksteady's code to give them. They don't, they've got to build the map from the ground up. They have to do everything all on their own. So if it took them 4 years to make Batman Arkham Origins, we're really looking at this game being a while out. And that's basically what we've seen, is that this game has been in development for 3 years. Again, this is a massive game studio, and we don't even have an announcement trailer yet. So presumably, we're not getting the game until probably November 2017. That's probably, that's when games come out, the big games come out, and it's going to be a big deal when it comes out, but I was expecting the game much, much sooner. I was expecting the game, late 2016, early 2017, in that range, but that's not what we're looking at here. And, at this point, they may be concerned if they can even release the game on this generation, because it's taken them so long to develop it. And at this point, again, we can look at the evidence, and one of the pieces of evidence that I wanted to look at, there's no doubt in my mind that this game is being made. The fact of it is, Kirian Turan, who worked at Game On Audio, which is a studio that I'll be showing you their page very briefly, he essentially put on his LinkedIn page, very unbeknownst to the secrecy of these things, and he put on his Facebook page that he had worked on the upcoming Superman video game in development. He worked on the 3D facial models, presumably for Superman himself, or maybe a supporting character. But either way, he basically confirmed that there is a Superman video game in development. And yeah, I looked at his LinkedIn page, and I didn't realize this when I first made the video a few months ago. I included this in here, but then I went back to his LinkedIn page, and conveniently, that blurb about the upcoming Superman video game in development that he worked on is no longer there. It simply ends at mentioning that he worked on Call of Duty. So I kind of tweeted, I think very cutely, about how before and after WB sues you for revealing their Superman game, and that's basically what happened there. I mean, WB definitely hit him with a firm warning, maybe some financial stuff there. I don't know what happened, but he definitely basically at this point spoiled that the game is being made, because this is somebody that again, you can see is an industry, he's an industry guy, and he has all these accolades, and he's legit, and he just put on his profile that he worked on the upcoming Superman game, which we all have already seen these leaked pictures and tons of other evidence that exists everywhere. Again, I made a 20-minute video. It takes that long to go through all the evidence. I'll link it in the description below. But to me, there's very little reason to doubt that this is real. And even more so, he worked at the studio named Game On Audio, is what he cites in his LinkedIn page that he worked for. So I'd never done this before. I don't think anybody else has. I went to the Game On Studio page and I looked at, you go to their portfolio of games that they've all worked on. Click on the video game tab and go here to the portfolio, and you'll scroll through all the games that they've worked on. Pretty typical kind of stuff there that they just do artwork for and sound design for Assassin's Creed Syndicate and things like this. And you'll scroll down and you'll actually see that they worked on Batman Arkham Knight. They did some mocap shoot and some post-production stuff for there. So I thought that, well, that's even more evidence that they've worked on an Arkham game in the past, so therefore they're in the DC circle. They can do more DC games. And then I scrolled down even further, and I noticed that not only did this studio that Kieran worked on, that he said basically was doing work for the upcoming Superman video game, but he indeed, this game studio that he worked for, worked on Batman Arkham Origins. I was like, holy shit. I mean, if there wasn't enough evidence already. So this studio that he worked for actually did work for Batman Arkham Origins. By the way, the only game that WB Games Montreal has ever made, this studio worked on as well. So to me, again, this is not a debate of, is this game real? I'm already convinced, much in the same way that I was months before Batman Return to Arkham was announced, that the game is happening. I think it's the same thing here. Unless the game got completely scrapped because it was a disaster, or they couldn't do it. Of course, it is leaked to be a open world Superman game. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it's out of the realm of possibility, but at the same point, I would bet money on it. Absolutely, I would bet money on it. So I don't want to ramble on for too much longer. I'm fully aware that I sound like an entitled, whiny little bitch when I'm talking about, like, oh, it's been so long since we deserve our game now. I mean, okay, yeah, I kind of feel entitled. Okay, yeah, I kind of feel like they need to fucking get the ball rolling here. And I would like to see a teaser trailer, even just a CGI teaser trailer, to know that they're working on the game and it's coming along at least somewhat nicely, or it's happening still. But, I just would like to speculate a little bit on when we're going to get the game, and also when the announcement is going to be, because of the fact that we don't have a trailer yet. Again, we're not expecting the game until 2017. Is it possible that they could pull a Marvel Ultimate Alliance and essentially just say, hey, by the way, this game comes out in a few months? They absolutely could do that, and in the case of Marvel Ultimate Alliance, a few days before the game's coming out, they announced it. So I think they could do the same sort of thing here. It's absolutely a possibility. When can we expect the announcement in terms of an event? I guess you could maybe be looking at Canada, the Canada Expo Canada, I believe it's called. That's probably the next biggest event coming out. But anything around that time, really, they don't need an event. They don't need a Comic-Con to reveal this. They could just totally drop the trailer online and tweet it at WB Games and get the news around that way, and it would be a huge deal, because this is just a Superman game. So a Superman game interests everybody, even casual gamers. Everybody's gonna see the trailer because it's a fucking Superman game, and that's going to be massive when it drops. But the question is, when is it going to drop? And that's really the question. I'm going to say that this game gets announced by the end of 2016. Absolutely, this game gets announced by the end of 2016. And if not the Superman game, because it takes more time to develop, then the other WB Games Montreal game that they're working on, which is presumably an Arkham game, some evidence has suggested, and from what I saw, I'm certainly, I'm definitely in that leaning that way from what I saw. The possibilities are unlimited, but the point is, WB Games Montreal, if they want to keep the interest of the casual fans, I think it's in their best interest to get the CGI trailer out there, announce that they're working on the game, even if it's going to take over a year for them to announce it. I think that the worst thing they can do is announce in December, hey, we're working on DC games, and then just totally leave everybody hanging, because that's how you lose public interest. And even 4 or 5 months ago, that video that I made on the Superman game, so much hype around it. It got a lot of views and traction, and articles were being written on Facebook and Twitter from that Reddit post, and hype was real for that, and now it's all gone as far as I'm concerned. So certainly it's gonna come back once the trailer drops. Don't get me wrong, but I do think it's in WB Games Montreal's best interest to make sure and keep the fans, kind of drag the fans along this journey to the game coming out. So anyway, guys, hope you'll have enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on a Superman game in development in the comment section below. Are you convinced that the game is happening from all the leaked pictures, and also from some people that have worked on the game, posting it on their LinkedIn page, etc., etc.? Let me know in the comment section below. My name is Slcmof, and we'll see you in the next one.